Hello, I'm Laura Furiosi, divorced mother of 3, and I'm here with my mother, Lynette Galvin, with 35 years' experience in family law. You're listening to the Divorce Course podcast. Through our candid discussions, we hope to help you through your divorce or de facto separation. We will be answering the most commonly asked questions and covering the stages and steps that you will face on your way to freedom. Can you mediate with a narcissist? A question we get asked a lot on social media, but also a question that mum can answer, and the answer may surprise you. Today we're going to go through some strategies and steps that you can take if you are going into mediation with someone who has narcissistic traits or perhaps is a narcissist or is a manipulative and controlling person. Because while you might think it might be a waste of time, there actually are some really great tips that Mum's going to share with us. Welcome, Mum. Before we get started, you're not a psychologist, but you have practiced as a mediator as well as a lawyer for how long?
Well,
when did you start doing the mediation?
I started doing mediation in 1994.
Oh, back in the 90s.
I was one of the first mediators registered.
All those fashions are fashionable again.
Oh, the 94
You know,
fashion.
it's a long time ago when the 90s fashion's back in.
Terrible.
So back in the day when everyone was wearing the chokers and the high-waisted mum jeans and the Doc Martens.
And you were learning mediation at school
I
too.
was learning mediation. I was doing Scram.
I was one of the judges, not for your school, but
I won the Queensland Mediation Challenge.
And I didn't pull any strings.
And I never wanted to be a lawyer.
No.
I think it was that made me not want to be a lawyer.
Yes.
Okay, so the buzzword is narcissist. So as I said, Mum's not a psychologist. No. We don't know what your ex is. Nobody knows, apart from you, who your ex is or how they behave. Mm-hmm. But there are a lot of narcissistic traits.
In people that can't agree.
Yes.
In one or other of them, usually.
Yes, yeah. So just because you can't get to an agreement, it doesn't mean you're a bad person. If you are giving it your red hot go, because I do feel like sometimes there's this shame vibe on people who can't settle. Or why are you still fighting with your ex? Why can't you just agree and get it over with? You're hurting the children. You're wasting your money. A lot of that comes through on TikTok, a lot of shame and blame. But sometimes, Mum, it's not.
You can't help it.
It's not everybody in the party.
That's right.
Sometimes it's just one of them.
Yes. I mean, it's healthy to consider if you've done something.
Yes.
But it's really, if it's not you, it could be them. Or it could be that your case is so unique. But generally this narcissistic tendencies that people seem to demonstrate, and lots of my clients tell me their ex is narcissistic, and, you know, they seem to demonstrate those qualities. So let's go, because
there's the rise of narcissism in this, apparently, in the psychological world. I don't know why. That's a different TED Talk.
It's certainly a lot of entitlement.
Yes. Now, one of the things you've said, that if you're going into a mediation, one of the things that you can be surprised about if you're going in with someone who's got narcissistic traits is what is actually important to them in the mediation. It
can absolutely blow you away sometimes. You go in thinking this argument or this mediation is going to be all about maybe the children. That'll be pivotal. And in fact, they're not really interested in fighting over the children, and they give in on those things that you want. So you think you know what's important to them because you're probably judging it by yourself and what would be important to you. But what's important to a person with narcissistic tendencies could be something different. So try and find the things that they're going to give in on and agree, or you can pretend to give in to their point of view, you know, and sign that up if they've made a thing. And then there's a couple of things that I found that narcissists really hang their hat on and will fight for. And one is the perception of them by someone else.
Right. Okay, well, let's talk about that for a minute. Well, let's quickly just circle back to that other one, being surprised about what they actually are going to hinge everything on.
Yes.
So it is a big no-no if you're about to go into mediation to assume that they think like you. Or assume that they're going to think like they were pretending to think when you were together.
Yes.
And I think that if you make an assumption that, they think like me, they're going to want the same thing that I want, that's a bad idea. Don't go in with assumptions.
That's where you get the surprise.
Yes. So it's better off to go into a mediation to discover and explore what's important to them. And so be it. If they don't have the same values as you, if they don't weigh the same weight of things on as you do, sure, be disappointed in them, but then at least you know what it is that you need to negotiate. And that can sometimes be a positive because, like you said, if they don't care about the kids as much as you do, then maybe the negotiation in that part will actually be easier. Okay, so then the next one, Mum, is you're saying they really care about what people think about what they look. Does that happen? Does that matter in mediation, or is it more about arranging whatever's going to happen in the future about how they look, or how they look to the mediator and the lawyer as well?
I don't think they particularly care, usually, how they look to the mediator or the lawyer, but their personal persona to the outside world really matters. And you kind of, I learned judo when I was really young, and in judo, it's called the gentle way, but you could throw people twice your size because you would use their momentum to you trip them, get them off balance, and they would sort of basically roll themselves.
Mum, I'd love to see you do that. I know you did that to my brother, who's, how tall is he again?
He's 6'3".
6'3", and he said, oh, you can't still do that anymore, and you flipped him on his bum. It was the best thing ever. So what you're saying, the analogy of using their momentum.
That's right. So use their thing that matters to them to kind of foil them or get them to settle. So if they've got a big car or a fancy vehicle, they don't care about the debt because no one can see that. So use that with them. They're happy to, and they're proud. And they're really proud to say they can afford things, even if they might not be able to. They're usually so confident that, I'll be able to handle that. I want that car. I want to still look like this person.
Right. So to them, it's about what they look like. So if they've got a fancy car, they've got a fancy house, they don't care if it's in debt as much. No. It's more about the look. Yeah. Is that same for parenting? So they're like, they want to look like the best parent in the world, but they actually, behind the closed doors, crap.
Yes.
But as long as everybody outside sees that, like maybe they join the P&C.
Yeah, well, if they know that they're if the world knows they're in a dispute about children, under the current regime, this is this awful shared parental responsibility. Yeah. They can feel very hurt or like they're publicly shamed if they don't have 50%.
If they don't win.
Of the time. Yeah. So they don't want you to win it all at their expense because that sort of reflects badly. I think that's made children negotiation a lot harder with the narcissist. But property negotiation can be easier. Because, like I said, they care about appearances and what things look like. So you just go with that. Okay. And it's often not what you think.
Okay.
You know?
Do you think that in a mediation, the narcissist is going to say or do things to get reactions from you? Do you see that when you do mediation?
Yeah, sometimes you do.
And what strategies can you give people listening who might be going into a mediation where they've got one of those people that are just like, know exactly what word to say or what to do to upset
press
them.
Buttons. Yeah, press buttons. Well, first of all, go in expecting that.
Okay.
Second of all, clue the mediator in if you're not in the same room when they do the shuttle. Tell the mediator there are some things that they're going to raise that are going to be deliberately provocative to you, and tell them what your buttons that you think are going to be hit are. Yeah. And then the mediator might not carry them back into the room and talk to you about them.
Oh, so the mediator can act like a filter.
Yes.
And this shuttle, I know we've talked about it before, but if anyone's listening to this for the first time, what is the shuttle process and what is it that they can ask for from a mediator if they're going to do that?
So they can say they don't feel comfortable being in the same room. They go into separate rooms. You never go in the same room as him if you don't want to. The mediator gives the opening speech to you and then goes and gives the opening speech to the other person. But also the mediator can carry offers between the rooms. And what if the mediator knows that by mentioning these things, your narcissistic ex is just baiting you? If you give them that knowledge in advance, they can challenge that person and say, well, how's that going to make her settle? Isn't that a tricky point for her? And they can sort of be aware of the shenanigans.
Right. As a mediator, how quickly do you cotton on to whether there's someone with narcissistic traits or manipulative controlling? When do you pick up on that? When does a mediator notice it?
You try to notice it. I mean, you do notice it, and it doesn't take long usually.
Yeah.
They're usually very well dressed. They're very confident, and kind of try to create a us and them mentality. Particularly if it's a bloke mediator, or with me, I know they try to sort of tell me all the bad things about the other person rather than talk respectfully.
Yes.
That you pick up that pretty quickly. But you try to be, when you're meditating. Mediation, meditation. When you meditate,
way different.
If you're doing
way more stressful.
If you're doing mindfulness and a thought comes in, you've got to try to let it go, and you've got to be non-judgmental. As a mediator, you've really got to stop yourself disliking a person.
Yeah.
And so you kind of, those traits I just let go, because when you're mediating, you're really focusing just on getting a resolution for these people.
What you're saying is it doesn't really actually matter whether the mediator knows this person is a piece of poopy bum, but it does help if you tell the mediator, these are my trigger points, this is going to really upset me. Could you perhaps help not derail the mediation by letting him do or say these things to me, because they will really hurt. And shuttle means you don't have to see them.
That's right.
Which is fantastic.
And you can be calm. You keep calm in your room, because you're not there to be baited by the narcissist. You can handle that. You've been handling it for years.
Yeah.
You're there to get something, and that is to get either resolution of all of the matters between you, or some of the matters, get it sorted. If not, at least you're there picking up what their story is going to be and what their narrative is going to be, because you can continue to mediate after mediation. You can continue to write offers and things.
And I think you mentioned before in another podcast, or maybe it was on the webinar, where someone was saying, mediation with a narcissist is a waste of time, which is why I decided to do this episode, because you have said, no, it's not, because you could mediate and their arguments are all laid out for you. And then you can, with your affidavit?
Well, you can tailor your material to it, especially if, you know how narcissists lie. That's in our narcissist playbook, I reckon. They always tell fibs. And so it's very hard sometimes when the court orders you, if you are going to trial, to file your affidavit material together on the same day and at the same time. You don't get a chance to respond to the allegations that the other side raises. Now, with a normal people, you both pretty well know what the scenario is. You've been battling it out, and you
know if there's been any events or situations, that's what's going to be in the affidavit.
That's what's going to be,
because they're reality.
Yes, but with the narcissist, sometimes what they put in their material is a complete, like, such a lie. You're absolutely flabbergasted that they could even say that.
Yeah.
Particularly when you think you can prove that it's not.
It's
but you don't get a chance to, so they put whatever they want in there. But if you've been to mediation and you listen to what they say, I find they always telegraph their moves. They always let you know. Or it's in a correspondence, there's something they nag, and you go, what's that about? Be sure that will turn up in the affidavit. So you can say, I'm aware that my ex thinks this or says this, and I say there's absolutely no reality in it. I suspect he'll put this in the affidavit, so I'm saying it here, just denying.
Brilliant.
And here's the proof.
Brilliant.
So, so that can save you sometimes, but don't be surprised that you can resolve. Sometimes you can settle things with the narcissist quite well, because the percentage of narcissists in the people who are going to court is probably much higher than in the rest of the population.
True.
So
I think as you've described it, they really live in a different reality in some ways. So that's something that you can look out for. But also they kind of love reactions. It's like their oxygen.
Yes.
It's your reaction. Yeah. So sometimes you can think of maybe mediation is like a cat and mouse, and if the cat just wants to sit there and play with the mouse way before it eats it, it plays, and in a mediation, maybe a narcissist would see it as another opportunity to mess around and waste everybody's time and make it all about them. And in those instances, we've recommended in the course, and you've talked about it before, Mum, where you just have a very clear agenda.
Yes.
And you stick to it no matter what.
That's right.
And is that what in mediation, does that help?
Yes, it does.
Get derailed?
It does. Yeah, because if a narcissist wants to play games with things at the beginning, that can last all day.
Yes.
So you need to be very clear with your legal team and the mediator. I know this person.
Mm-hmm.
I know how much we're paying for the mediator, for lawyers. We have this many things to get through. I'm not talking about that now. And that way you're not going to get them a real opportunity to run the agenda. You're going to have you have your plan and you keep it on there and simply refuse to get involved in anything that's not going to be helpful.
So would it be of benefit for someone who's going to mediation with a narcissist or a manipulative, controlling person to have a written agenda?
Yeah, I think
like
so.
Like a meeting?
Yep, and with times and a plan, really.
Okay.
A plan for the mediation.
Do many people go in to do mediation for both property and children, or is it usually one or the other?
No, sometimes they try for both.
So which one do you do first?
Whichever is the most important for you.
Okay.
Yeah.
So is your goal to do the most important thing?
Well, here's the thing. If the children arrangements are something you could kind of live with, don't rush to put them ahead of the property. If you can't live with the current property things, so you need to deal with that. But sometimes the one that you think is going to be settled quicker might be a good idea to do that one if you're both pretty well on the same page, and that could be kids. If you both sign off on that, it gives that momentum to then settling further. So it's hard to say, Laura, whether you do them.
If you're stuck in a financial situation where you're still relying on your narcissistic ex to dole out money and you beg for it, or do the good girl, bad girl scenario where the money gets stopped if you don't do exactly what you're told, that would be highly important, I guess, to sort that out. And if the narcissist is enjoying doing that, they're probably not going to want to make that priority number one.
That's right.
So how do you get the mediator to agree that should be number one?
Well, the mediators usually set an agenda.
Okay.
So they listen to both of you. And don't forget that in this current situation with the courts, even though you're not in the courts, the Central Practice Direction orders people or makes people file an outline of their case. And so the mediator will have read all of that material. And so they'll identify the issues, or you can identify them for the mediator and say, look, as far as I'm concerned, these are the big points, and it might not just be a blanket children. It might be, what school holidays are the kids having, or where does Timmy go to school next year? That might be your actual issue. And then the other might be, do we sell the house or property settlement? So you can sort of suggest that to the mediator.
Yes.
They can take that on board, go and talk to the other person and perhaps put that agenda to them. But one of the first things you agree on is the agenda and what should happen. I think that be careful if your mediator is just letting your ex run the show. You need buy-in on that agenda, and I think a timetable if you've got a narcissist, because they'll want to stay on the one that's most fun for them.
So you go, cut your losses, we didn't get through it, let's move to the next point. Have you ever been in a situation where I think some narcissists I've heard of through our members have done this, that they've negotiated and agreed all the way through, got to the end, and then said, I'm not signing that, I changed my mind? So how do you stop that from happening?
Well, you can't really.
Sign as you go?
No, not really. They have that prerogative, but the mediator may make a certificate that says one person didn't try. It's that genuine effort that's important. If they do it in court, in the court-ordered mediations where you've got a judge or a judicial registrar who's doing the mediation, you would not want to be the person that gets a little bad little report card that says you didn't try very hard.
So that's the difference.
Could be cost consequences. Yeah. So with the mediator in the main, outside of the court, with children's matters, that precious 60I certificate has to issue. You have to have one before you go to court, and it has the 3 or 4 different reasons that they didn't try hard enough, or they both made genuine effort, or such and such didn't turn up, or it was not suitable for mediation. And you need that before you can go to court for children.
Can you say it's not suitable because they're a narcissist?
I don't think you'll get anywhere telling a psychologist or a mediator that your ex is a narcissist just because it's a little bit of an overworked
So you
name.
shouldn't even use the N word.
No, I think that it can turn them off, and the first thing they'll say is, "Are you a psychologist? Has he been psychiatrically assessed?"
Yeah.
One time I said to someone, "Oh, well, yes, but look, that's just one doctor's opinion that you're a narcissist." And he goes, "No, it was 2 psychiatrists."
Oh,
And I go, "Okay, you're a narcissist." I was trying to make him feel better. But real narcissist diagnosis is pretty rare because they're not going to take themselves to the psychiatrist.
No,
thinking,
they're not.
"There's something wrong with me. I need to get help."
Fascinatingly, there are a couple of narcissistic influencers who are diagnosed narcissists who talk you through different scenarios and their thought patterns.
Oh,
which is interesting to watch, but terrifying but if anyone ever wants to see into the mind of a narcissist, go and find those guys on TikTok because that's interesting. However, I think everybody's ex is different, and this whole narcissistic tar brush doesn't necessarily cover your ex. But I think, like you were saying, Mum, you need to find out what is that motivates them.
Yeah.
That's really the crux of it. And that's what a mediator does anyway.
Yes, it is. And you can call it, 50%, but if they think it's 48%, it doesn't matter. It's just what actually changes hands, actually is decided.
This is one of your other tips.
Yeah.
And it is, I'm calling it rebranding.
Yes.
Rebranding your offer in words and image that they want.
Yes.
Because when it comes down to it, it's just the words and image.
Yeah.
So if you can get a rebranding, spin it, get a spin doctor, go and hire someone who rebrands for other, and say, how can I look at your thing, how can I make this look better for them? So give me some examples.
One classic example is if the kids aren't going to be spending 7 days with one parent and 7 days with another, because 50-50 split is common knowledge now that that's the way the court's been going under the current regime. For a narcissist to walk away from a mediation where he doesn't have 50% care of the children can be absolutely difficult to live with.
Yeah.
Right? But if you write it this way, so if you write the children live, say there's going to be an offer that the children live with your client, the mother, for say 10 days a fortnight or 9 days a fortnight, and live with the other person for 5. Instead of saying, as I've seen a young lawyer in another firm just done, the children live with the mother. That's one thing. And the second one, the children spend time with the father on these days. Don't do that. The children live with the father and the mother as follows, and then set the days. It's less in their face. And
it's less obvious.
Yeah.
It's less offensive to their narcissistic view.
It just hurts their feelings, and they might not sign it. And you think they're not signing it because they don't agree to 5 and 9. No, they don't sign it because they don't like the way those words read, and it gives them an injury, and they won't explain it.
You've given that and another example of like when someone is really obsessed with maybe an inheritance that they've got.
Yes.
And a narcissist probably would be very obsessed with some sort of inheritance that's come from, some image thing. They're going to want to keep it.
Yep. She's not touching this. And you go, fair enough.
You rebrand it and go,
fair enough. You can have that, but she gets 90% of the rest of the property. But you've kept your inheritance.
You win. You get your inheritance.
Or
you're
getting your Corvette. Or whatever it is that you had before. You have that. Go right ahead.
I do think some of them must be sitting there in their head going, what am I going to tell everybody when I get out of here? They're going to ask me if I won. Am I going to say yes? How am I going to be able to say yes? But if you split the inheritance, they can't say they won. But if you give them the inheritance and then just more money goes to you for something else,
counts,
it's all rebranding.
Yeah, or more super to you, because a lot of people, narcissists, are very worried about the present.
Yes.
And how people think of them now.
Yes.
So all of those things, it's just how they can walk out with a feeling, even if in their heart of hearts they know they didn't win, but they can spin it to say they won.
So time with children, if they're just really obsessed with being seen as a good dad or a good mum or a good parent, but they don't want the time spent with the kids. You gave me another example before we started where you say,
you could find us on Instagram, Facebook and TikTok. We're there waiting for you right now. If you want to get more out of the Divorce Course, all you have to do is go to the Divorce Course podcast at Facebook or TikTok, or the Divorce Course on Instagram. There we share bite-sized pieces of information and bite-sized inspiration and motivation to help you through this difficult time. Come and join our community and let us know you've joined. We'd love to see you there.
you gave me another example before we started where you see, but you take them to the football games every week for the day.
Or you keep taking them to school every morning and pick them up every afternoon if that's what you want. Yeah. Or you go to the parent-teacher meetings, or you just kind of give them that profile.
And then that way in the school environment, they seem like the engaged mum or dad. They're always there. But realistically, it is you with the children all the time. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's handy.
Yeah.
And look, you're not going to look a gift horse in the mouth if you could have someone to offer to take your kids from time to time to those things that you really don't have time to do.
Yeah.
Sure. If that's going to help you feel better about your appearance, go for gold.
And it's good for the kids.
Yeah.
So, whatever dad's motivation, it's usually the dads or mums, but whatever their motivation, if their upshot of that is the kids are getting one-on-one time with a parent, it's a good outcome.
Okay. All right. So we definitely look into the looks. You've mentioned, you can try and somehow make it in a way that they still look like Parent of the Year, or
they still
feel wealthy. They've got the looks. They don't care as much about debt.
They want to be respected.
Yes,
so don't sort of be sarcastic with them.
So don't be surprised with what it is that's going to hold everything up.
Yeah.
But also don't get held up by your reactions if they want to play with the mouse and be one of those horrible people that just want to mess around all day.
Yeah, that's why you should go. I think you mentioned it the other day. Go and see your counsellor beforehand.
Yes.
Have some strategies in place.
Yes.
If you've written an agenda, also write down some things. I mean, I think I've said this before in a mediation, had to turn off the lights and do some deep breathing with my client just to ground them again.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
So bring some food.
Usually it's a white room with a white table and
no windows.
A hideous box of tissues in the middle. Yeah. The one I think I did, it had the tissue box looked like a bomb. And I just spent the whole time looking at it going, that looks like a bomb.
That was very unfortunate.
And I think it's so clinical. It's so horrible. You really need to look at it as it's a psychological approach. If you're not right in the head, if you're not ready for the battle, you're not going to do well. So you've got to get yourself fit in mind.
We call it a mediation mindset in the course. You've got to have that mediation mindset, and you are going there to take away something from the other person, which is you're going to go there to get an agreement, whether they like it or not. It sounds an oxymoron, like get them to agree against their wishes, but actually you can move a long way along that track. And sometimes just not letting them see that it hurts you or that you're upset.
Yeah, those reactions.
Yes, those reactions. Don't go overdressed, looking like you're trying to impress them or anything. Yeah. Just think of it as a business deal.
Yeah.
Get someone else to pick up your kids so you don't have to worry if they leave it all till the last minute to settle. But I have said the fact that there's something over an 80%, I think, success rate with mediations by and large. And given that a lot more of the population in the family law courts would be, I think, narcissistic tendencies compared to the rest of the population. Like Judge Barry used to say, you only end up in court if one of you's unreasonable. So we could use that word unreasonable.
Is code for narcissistic tendencies.
Yes. Yeah. And so it obviously works, and I've seen it work. And if you do get an agreement with your narcissistic ex, you will not be the first person, and you get to walk away.
Yes. So you have done a lot of mediations with people that seem like they have got narcissistic traits.
With the other person, the other side, my client, no.
Yeah.
The other parties, yes.
Yeah.
And we manage it, and the mediators are very skilled, and they manage it. If you've got a narcissistic ex, they may want to look good to the mediator if it's a bloke.
Yeah.
They may be disrespectful to some women.
So is it worthwhile choosing
accordingly. Just think about their personality.
What's going to work.
And what's going to work for them.
So if they have no respect for women, don't go and try and get a female mediator.
I think it helps to get a tough male mediator.
Now, I know we're going to upset some mediators that listen to this.
Yeah.
So,
but then in other cases, a woman has the touch that the guys, they're flirty guys or they...
Oh, God.
No, but seriously, they might listen.
Did they ever flirt with you, Mum?
No, don't ask those questions. No, I keep a very serious face on.
Oh, gosh.
Oh, Laura.
It's the worst place to be flirting with someone during a mediation.
But their natural instinct might appear to be, it goes into that looking good.
Yes.
Looking good to the opposite sex. Or sometimes they don't care but people who really know them think they only care what their chosen audience thinks. But, just try and choose the person. We have some very, very firm female mediators, and I've seen them handle those guys quite well.
I've seen some very firm female judges in action.
Yes, you have. There's not much difference anymore.
No.
But it's in the perception of someone like that that you might think, what would work best for my narcissistic ex-partner.
Yeah, and that's what it all comes down to. I think a lot of people in the old days, and I surely did, I thought, mediation, we just turn up, we have a little chat, it'll be fine. But in hindsight, it's your opportunity to avoid trial. It is your opportunity to get it all sorted. It probably will cost you a lot of money for a mediator unless you're getting it free. Mm-hmm. So
you probably take a lawyer with you, which
get a battle plan, list down what it is that you want to try and get sorted in that time, have time limits for topics. Definitely don't let them derail.
That's right.
So if there's a new thing that comes up that's a surprise,
park that. We'll talk about that later.
Talk about it another time.
Yeah. I've never heard of that argument. You haven't raised that before.
Never heard about it. Haven't seen. Take all the proof in the world that you can take, all the evidence in the world. You don't have to show it, but if there's any arguments at the last minute, that's not true, well then with a narcissist, the best defense is evidence. Yeah. Have all of that there to take away the tisn't arguments.
Yep. And also for you, like everyone in these disputes, they're not all narcissists, but they often misremember what happened on a particular day because you're heightened anxiety, you might get the day wrong, you might get the events wrong. And I have clients over the years who've literally sworn on a Bible that something in an affidavit is true, and they're good people, they're not deliberately lying, and then they come in 2 weeks later and go, look what I found, I was wrong. I had it in my head it was this. I could have sworn it was this. And I said, well, you did swear. I always say you did swear it. And then we have to correct the record. But you don't trust your memory. Double check that you're accurate and you're right. And then take in the proof both of you being correct and if you can get it of them being wrong. And just put that on the table. It just takes it away.
What if they're asking for something you just cannot agree to? What if they're asking which they know you're going to say no to? What do you do in those situations? How can you mediate if they're saying, I get everything, or you never see the children, I get 100% and sole parental? Well, is that a tactic by narcissists to just clear the decks and derail?
And if that's going to happen, usually the mediator will call time on that quite quickly. It's clear there's no movement here.
Can you do anything to salvage anything out of a mediation like that?
It's such a general question, Laura, and we're only doing general advice. But I think you need to be careful if they're absolutely baiting you with stuff that cannot be resolved. Move on to another topic quickly, explore all the things you think you can get agreement on, and call it quits. Okay. Just because you've booked a mediation for a whole day doesn't mean you need to stay there for the whole day. Be careful not to be the first one to leave, though. General advice only, to walk out because you will look like you didn't make a genuine effort. And all mediation that ends up in successful negotiated outcomes feel hard. It is work. It feels, there's tears and there's, reassessment and unless it's come down to the safety of the children or something ridiculous like everything to one person, you need to check your assumptions and your non-negotiables and think, are they really non-negotiable? Is there something about that I could tweak? And what is he really thinking about? And that's what the mediator will be looking at. Is he asking for that just to give you the pips? Or is it because, like we said, he wants to be seen at the school functions? So can you let him do that, or let him go to the sport, or just unpack what that thing. But bearing in mind, appearances really matter and that they fib.
Do you recommend shuttle?
Yes.
So with a narcissist, if you just don't even bother?
Sometimes people who've been in a long-term relationship with a narcissist are very, in their deepest part, they seem to want to settle, or they're a little bit intimidated still.
Or they fall back into old patterns.
Of pleasing the other person.
Yeah.
And of course, you'll see the narcissist sometimes with the eyes like looking across the room. And if it's going to have a deleterious effect, a bad effect on the person. So I used to think it was a bit cowardly custard of the mediators to go straight to shuttle, because magic can happen if people are in a room negotiating. But I think that is more true in commercial matters rather than something where there's all of this family history
and future.
Yeah, you just don't need to.
What about those things you see on the TV? and I did in my mediation thing in high school, the opening statements. Do you think that's a good idea if you've got a narcissistic ex to go through opening statements?
Yes, I think so. In fact, try and stop them. But we've now the rules are that you do a lot of your things in writing beforehand. You put your contentions and all of that in writing beforehand. And so it's not, and the mediators read those. Opening statements, if you're in the same room, can be quite powerful. But really, opening statements in the separate rooms are more condensed these days because the mediator knows.
And
cases.
So if you're there listening right now, you're about to go to mediation, you're thinking this is going to be such a waste of time. Hopefully you can use some of these strategies.
Pack snacks.
Yep. But more importantly, really, if you can afford it, go and see a psychologist. Get them to give you some strategies. Get them to give you some canned responses. Are there any canned responses that you can think of that people could use in a mediation, Mum?
It's the normal de-escalation stuff, you know, like, oh, that's interesting, that I'll have to consider that later. You don't say, how dare you raise that now? You say, can we talk about that a little bit later? I'm really interested in this point. And try to just not be triggered, because it's more than what you say, the canned responses that you say, it's how it makes you feel. So just go there ready for that and be determined to keep your calm.
And have a little sticky note in front of you next to your agenda that says calm and confident, or I am as calm as an ocean, or something that will help you when you look at it. Take a breath and let it go, because if you end up wound up tightly like a ball, then when you might explode.
When they hit that trigger, you'll either be dissolved in tears or very angry.
And then you're not going to be thinking clearly.
Yeah. And
so I think
it's a business decision. This is a business deal.
It is. So go in there with everything you've got. Go in there and give it your best shot. Don't say right at the start, this is going to be a waste of time.
This isn't going to work. Yeah.
Because that is writing yourself a self-fulfilling prophecy. And if you don't give it your best shot, it's going to cost more money. But at least, like you've said, Mum, if it fails, you know their strategy, you know what ridiculous, crazy reality they're living in that you can counteract in your affidavit before they've even written it. So have that gumption, get yourself in a good mental space.
And do it.
And then also prepare yourself for at least a week of absolute exhaustion, if you can, while you're looking after all the kids and running your job and doing everything else you've got to do.
It is awful after that. But and be assured, if this mediation doesn't work, the way the system's working in the Family Court, Federal Circuit Court and Family Court of Australia now is you will undoubtedly have another mediation. And so each one, I think, is begins to clarify the issues, and each one is an opportunity. It's the only time, for those of our listeners who have lawyers, you think about this. You've got the mediators 100% attention. They're not taking phone calls. Your lawyer doesn't usually, a good one anyway, shouldn't be taking calls from anyone else. They should be focused 100% on trying to get your case settled. You will never have that opportunity again. You know,
That's true. It is. Because
well, I mean, you will
be
but
before
each time-
trial,
Yeah, but
the day of the trial, or the day of the mediation.
Well, there might be another mediation, but then you've spent more money as well. So you give this first one a really good red hot go.
Yeah.
And you maybe find yourself filing consent orders with the narcissist that you never thought you could.
And that would be amazing. Let us know.
Yes.
Send us an email at thedivorcecourspodcast@gmail.com. We would love to hear that good news. But we have had, some of our members have had that success.
I know. I love it.
One of those testimonials that we got last year, and she said, the house is mine. And I was able to protect myself from that kind of behavior. So don't give up. Don't think that it's the end of the world because they're a narcissist. There are ways you can do this. You just need to be mentally strong. Thanks, Mum.
Thank you, Laura.
And
Good
all the
luck,
best
everyone.
to anybody who's going down Mediation Street. We wish you all the best. There is an episode, I should mention, how to negotiate.
Convincing the unconvincible.
There we go. Convincing the unconvincible.
That's it.
That episode would be really good for you as well. Yeah. So
Absolutely.
go, if this is something that you are facing right now, click on the show notes, go to the link where it says podcast episodes mentioned, click on the episode Convincing the Unconvincible. That one is a cracker.
People
love it and use it and have been using it for nearly a year and a half now.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks so much. Thanks, Mum.
Thank you, Laura. Bye, everyone.
If you found this podcast helpful, we'd love it if you could rate, review and subscribe. By doing so, you are spreading the word to help someone else just like you. Lynn would like to remind you that this podcast is general advice only and you should always get legal advice in relation to your particular situation. And remember that the Australian laws may have changed since recording.